New tonight on ABC 15, an in-depth look at systematic failures in the Boy Scouts that allowed known child molesters to remain as Scout leaders.
Our Scripps National Investigative Team is breaking news tonight with new action from the Boy Scouts in response to our investigation. Investigative correspondent Jim Osman is following the trail of betrayal.
They are known molesters who kept moving from troop to troop.
Somebody knew that. He had a file.
Scout leaders allowed to commit unthinkable acts against children.
They put scouts at risk of harm.
You'll hear one of the victims speak out for the first time.
You've never been interviewed before.
All new tonight, the Scripps National Investigative Team will reveal systematic failures in the Boy Scouts to protect children. We reviewed 30,000 once confidential Boy Scout documents and found a revolving door of suspected pedophiles, a breakdown in background checks, and repeat offenders who kept right on being Boy Scout leaders.
When you get a repeat case, it's just very hard to understand. Yeah, they failed people.
We're back on the trail of betrayal. In Colorado, Floyd David Slusher took advantage of failures in the Boy Scout system that created a virtual revolving door for child molesters.
It brings up some anger. It brings up frustration. That whole sense of, literally my heart will begin to race.
Clay Evans is a 50-year-old man who can't bear to look at this convicted pedophile's picture because of what this man did to him and other Boy Scouts 35 years ago. Evans says Scout leaders didn't believe him when he told about the abuse.
I was shocked. I thought it was just me they were ignoring, and it wasn't.
The confidential files reveal Scout officials had reports that Slusher was a repeat sexual molester.
How does he wind up as a Scoutmaster?
The Boy Scouts created a file for Slusher in 1972 after he was caught molesting a scout at a Boy Scout of America camp in Germany and was thrown out of scouting. By the next year, he was back in charge of Scouts again, this time in Boulder, Colorado. And by 1976, he was running two different troops. A known abuser, once caught in the act, going through a virtual revolving door, continuing to prey on children. Finally nabbed in 1977, police at the time said there were too many victims to interview.
It messed with everybody's head. It was hard to be at that age and to have that kind of invasion.
46. That's how many men we found in the confidential files like Slusher who went through those revolving doors, caught, removed, and allowed back in again.
I have nothing to hide.
Paul Ernst was the head of Boy Scout registration and kept the confidential files from 1971 until 1994. His name appears in the Boy Scout confidential files hundreds of times.
Why wasn't more done?
I don't know. I can't look behind me. I don't know what happened. We made decisions then, and they've, as I say, times have changed.
He said the confidential files were designed to keep out molesters.
I wasn't the policymaker of the Boy Scouts of America. I was just the person handling them.
The Boy Scouts had plenty of problems in screening Boy Scout leaders. The Scripps National Investigative Team uncovered 88 cases where Scout officials failed to conduct adequate background checks, allowing men with prior criminal convictions into the Scout ranks. We also found cases of more than 100 repeat offenders, Scout leaders who were reported to the Boy Scouts for molesting, simply allowed to remain in their volunteer positions. Like Art Humphreys in Virginia, in 1978 he was accused of molesting a Scout. A Scout executive documented the alleged abuse but didn't go to police. Humphreys remained in his position. When police themselves finally caught up with him 6 years later, records show Humphreys had sexually molested at least 20 boys, many who were part of a Scout troop for the disabled.
They knew that this perpetrator had had issues. There had been reports that there was a problem.
Melvin Estes was a repeat offender, the Scoutmaster who molested Veronica Aiken's son, Chance. Aiken says Scout leaders chose not to believe the reports and put Estes in charge of her son's troop. It was a decision that devastated her family.
He robbed my son of his dignity, his pride, his childhood. He damaged my child. And how can anyone ever fix that?
And as a mother, that's painful.
Very painful. Because I can't fix it.
Recently, the Boy Scouts of America promised to turn over to police names in the confidential files of suspected pedophiles. But in an exclusive interview with the Scripps National Investigative Team, Boy Scouts of America President Wayne Perry went one step further.
Are we going to protect people who made mistakes, willingly made mistakes? And the answer is no.
In addition, Perry revealed for the first time they'll also turn over names from the files of Boy Scout officials who failed to contact authorities.
I will talk to our youth protection director, who's a retired policeman, and ask him. I'll say, how do we go about doing this? We'll be happy to do that.
Now, the obligation to report sexual abuse is dictated by state law. We found at least 28 states where the statute of limitations is still open for incidents dating back to 1971. Tomorrow, a call for action.
It's time for Congress to investigate.
I'm Scripps National Investigative Correspondent Jim Osman in Washington.
The Trail of Betrayal is a Scripps national investigation. It's on air, online, and in print, and we will continue our coverage on abc15.com. There you'll find in-depth coverage that includes an extended interview with Boy Scout President Wayne Perry.